Not much beats the beauty of the Scottish landscape, even just a few miles outside Glasgow. And the political map's pretty fascinating too. There's a real possibility Scotland will reinvent its relationship with the rest of the UK with a referendum on independence. The SNP insist it's time to fly solo. But there is another option on the table. It's called Devo Max. The idea is that Scotland remains in the UK, but is given tax-raising powers and responsibility for virtually everything bar defence and foreign policy. It keeps the Queen and it keeps the pound. It's not independent, but it's pretty damn close, which is why it's controversial.
This is essentially the maximum amount of powers we can have in terms of devolution, and also the ability of Scotland to raise taxes in Scotland to pay for the services we provide. And I fear that if we don't have an alternative to independence in the form of some kind of fiscal autonomy, Devo Max, then I think the SNP will continue to do well. I believe that this keeps us in the Union, but it also means that we transform the relationship of Scotland within the Union, but also means that Scotland will travel much, much further down the devolution road.
Now, you might expect a former First Minister of Scotland to want more powers for Scotland, but what about the view from London? Well, there are some English Tory MPs who are up for Devo Max, but with strings.
If the Scottish people want more fiscal autonomy, then as a Democrat, I find it very difficult to see that that's something we could object to. But it's got to be honest and fair to the rest of the Union, and that means ending the current subsidy that the Scots get, which is arbitrary and unfair because it's not linked to real local need. And I think we've also got to deal with the situation where you've got Scottish MPs in Westminster voting on issues that affect every voter in the country except their own.
Which some people think is actually a trap for Scotland.
You can get more powers, you can negotiate for more powers, but you've got to understand this, that if you take some of the good things, if you want to get the oil revenues such as they are, you've also got to accept that there is a huge spending imbalance. And England would quite rightly say, well, we're not going to carry on with a situation where spending per head in Scotland is so much greater than it is in England. And that has consequences. Once you open the door here, once you start looking at these issues, there's some difficult questions and they've got to be answered before people go to the polls, not afterwards.
At the moment, the government is pushing through the Scotland Bill. It gives the Scottish Parliament the power to raise as much as 35% of its own revenue, mostly through a Scottish rate of income tax, with the rest coming in a block grant from Westminster. But it falls short of Devo Max. So, how much appetite for change is there in Scotland right now? And how much do people really want Devo Max? In an exclusive poll for the Politics Show, we found that Scottish public opinion is pretty evenly divided. 29% of Scots said they wanted to keep things as they are. Almost the same number supported full independence, but the most popular option was Devo Max. 33% of Scots wanted increased powers short of independence. But this isn't just about Scotland. Devo Max would be a fundamental change to how the United Kingdom as a whole is governed. And our polling suggests England may not yet be ready for it. There, the most popular option was to keep things as they are. But interestingly, almost a quarter of our English sample thought Scotland should actually go it alone. However, Devo Max, full powers short of independence, was only supported by 14% of those in England, which could be a problem if that was the option chosen by Scotland.
Devo Max is actually UK federalism. And Scotland can't impose that on the rest of the country, neither should we. Can you imagine the outcry in Scotland if the English people wanted to impose a form of government on Scotland against their wishes?
Thing is, there's nothing to stop the Scottish Government holding a referendum, but only Westminster has the power to make it binding.
Scotland can demand what it wishes to demand, but at the end of the day it cannot expect to get everything and anything it wants. There must be some negotiation, and so the rest of the United Kingdom must be involved in these discussions, and that's why I think more powers for the Scottish Parliament, devolution max, is perhaps a messier option than either the status quo or independence.
The SNP's referendum isn't planned to happen for at least another couple of years. The unionist parties have yet to formulate a settled response. But the questions it raises means this is a pressing issue, not just for Scotland's political landscape, but for Britain's too.